Okay, so in today's session, we are going to talk about motivation, how we deal with learners' mood and motivations. And to help us ignite the discussions, there are two speakers joining us all the way from the continent of Africa. I would like to introduce you to them. Okay. Yeah, the first one is Taoufik Saji from Morocco. Hello, Taoufik. Thank you for joining us today. All right. Okay, Taoufik is an online ELT teacher in Myanmar, and he works mainly with young and adolescent learners. He has completed series of training in gender equality in teaching practice with the British Council, and he's mainly interested in language learning for young learners. And he's now processing the TKT certifications with Cambridge English Assessment. Good luck. Okay. Yeah. Now, the next one, we've got Mamadou Malal Jalloh. Hello, Malal. How are you?
Hello. Hello.
Okay. Malal is from Guinea, Conarky. He has 8 years experience in English language teaching, and he works mainly with adolescents and adult learners. He has a degree in international relations, and he's a volunteer teacher in an American corner called American Reading Room. And he is a founder of a program called Ido English 224, featured in Facebook and also in Instagram, Spotify, and YouTube. You have to make sure that you join this program with him. Okay. Now, to help you get the best experience in these discussions, there are two facilitators joining in these discussions. Okay, there is myself, of course. My name is Levi. I'm from Indonesia, and I'm the founder of my English club and the co-founder of Bangun Tunas Cerdas Indonesia Foundation, which is the host institutions of this event. And I'm a student in a master program in English language teaching with the University of Southampton. And there is Richard. Hello, Rich.
Hello there.
Yes, Richard is from the United Kingdom. He's a guidance counselor at the University of Wales, Trinity St. David in the UK. And he taught with the British Councils and at the university level. Okay, welcome to everyone who just joining. Welcome to the discussions. Okay, now I would like to give you a quick introductions to the host institution of this event. My English Club is a non-profit social movement dedicated mainly for English language teachers and volunteer teachers in particular. We provide discussion forum like this one and also a teaching workshop. And the other institution is a foundation based in Indonesia called Bangun Tunas Cerdas Indonesia. It's an Indonesian foundation concerning education and sustainable development goals in general. Okay, now, before we start the discussions, let me give you a quick rundown of this event. So the first one, we are here in the introductions and opening sessions, yeah, and the first speaker, Malal, will share us his ideas and tips and tricks perhaps on how to motivate learners. He will give the talk for 15 minutes, followed by Taoufik. And then the most important part is the discussion. So please feel free to join the discussion live or on chat, yeah. And after the discussions, there will be some pedagogical overview by Richard for 15 minutes. And finally, we will have the closing. Okay. Right. Now, what else here? Yeah, the very last one before we start. There are some code of conduct just to ensure that everybody get the best experience during the discussions. So please display your real name and please remain mute throughout the discussions. And everyone is welcome to participate during the discussion time. you can give the feedback or questions, or even tell us your own teaching stories, your teaching experience, whether live or in chat. Yeah, you can speak in English or you can speak in Bahasa if you like. We can help you to translate. And if you wish to join the discussion live, now please click the raise hand icon down there during the question and answer sessions. And whenever possible, please turn on your video. And finally, to get the best experience, you might want to use the speaker view. And for everyone who just joining, I would like you to know that this session is recorded and we will upload it to our channel in YouTube. So whenever you want to come back, you can come back and watch this session again. Okay, now this is it, dealing with learners' mood and motivation. We all know that motivation is one of the most important thing, if not the most important thing, in any learning. Now, what can we do to motivate our learners and deal with their moods? Okay, all right. Now let's listen to our first speaker, Malal. The time is yours now.
Okay.
Right.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm Malal Jalloh, as said Levy. Okay, today we're going to deal a little bit about learners' motivation, learners' mood and motivation. So in this journey, we're going to talk about a little bit what is motivation, its types, the strategies of motivation, how to keep your students motivated, inspirational quotes, and then a conclusion so we can start. Now, as we know that motivation is something like this is not easy to define, but it will depend on one person to another, depending on their way to define this concept called motivation. But here we say it is the drive to achieve your goals or needs. In other words, it is the general desire or willingness for someone to do something. So motivation is something that someone can have within themselves sometimes, okay, that they want to fulfill something, they want to, do something in their life. So this is what it is as motivation. Now, let's talk about the types of motivation. Basically, we have the two types of motivation. So the intrinsic motivation, or called self-motivation. As you can see, this motivation comes from within the person. It is the person himself who really needs to do something or has the desire to do something, okay? This motivation comes from within the person. And at the opposite, the extrinsic motivation or external motivation, this is the motivation that comes from, okay, an external force, okay, in order to achieve something. Let's just take two different students, for example. One student who really wants to have his exam, for example, or wants to learn something new, or any kind of person who wants to do something in their life, okay, they can have that desire to do it from within themselves, and that is called the intrinsic. And the extrinsic motivation is something, it's a pressure, something like that. We are under pressure, okay, an external force, okay, that pushes us to do something, okay, that is called the extrinsic motivation. For example, a parent who says to his child, look, if you don't study, I'm not going to be your father. This can be an external motivation and a pressure, okay? Now, that can be sometimes due to a reward. When you do something, you can be rewarded, or it can be a punishment. When you don't do something, you're going to be punished. Now, let's move on to the next. So we have some strategies of motivation. One of the strategies of motivation can be be inspiring and creative. Yes, a teacher must not be someone who does things, many things at the same, the same thing over and over. You have to be inspired. You have to be a creative. You've got to be the first one to be inspired first before you inspire others. Now, and creative. So, and this is a fact. We know that mostly that students believe, okay, in their teachers more than almost anyone else. This is a fact. Uh, Sometimes students, your own child can come home when you show him something like how to calculate some things, he can tell you, no, no, this is not what my teacher told me. It means that he's not going to say that you're lying, but he wants to tell you that his teacher, the way that his teachers showed him, okay, the way to do it is not the same way. Now he believes more, he believes the teacher more than you sometimes. And being inspiring and creative, firstly, you should know your subjects. You should know your subjects. If you don't know your subjects, you will not be confident. You will not be confident. And students also will know that you are not able. You are not able, you don't have the ability to give the class, to give your course. So first, you should know your subjects. The second thing, you should be confident. Yes, you are a teacher. You come from, in front of your students, but you don't have any confidence. The way that you explain things and the way that you behave, some students will notice that this teacher is not confident. And being confident requires what? Requires to give something that is consistent, something that you think can help your students, okay, within, acquiring or achieving their goals. And be imaginative. This is what I said. Being imaginative, you're not going to say the same thing, okay, over and over. When it is to say the same thing over and over, you should have some different ways of saying that thing. For example, today we're going to deal with the simple present. Maybe today I'm going to give the rules, the definitions, and some examples. The next time we're going to deal with the same thing, the simple present tense, but maybe I'm going to say that today we are going to talk about daily routine. And talking about daily routine, okay, means that you're going to use the simple present, but in another way, okay? This is the first strategy that you can apply. The second one can be build a meaningful and respectful relationship with your students. This is also really important. The first contact, you should try to build a meaningful relationship and respectful also with your students. Sometimes I say that being too serious with your students, keep them away from you. Yes, being too serious sometimes. For example, you come in the morning in the class, you say, good morning, students. Okay, today we're going to deal with the simple present. It seems like you are building a barrier between you and your students. A lot of them will not do anything. They will see a barrier between you and them. So don't be too serious. Be real. They are human beings and you are another human being. Be real, be yourself, be authentic. Show them that you are a person like them. You come, good morning, everyone. Hey, how are you feeling today? How's the morning going? Okay, I'm doing well. And you smile. Show them a good facial expression. Okay, so be real, be a human, be consistent. Yes, here, what I mean is your students, whatever the number it is, okay, be consistent. The way that you treat one student, try to treat the other ones the same thing. Don't, regardless gender or sex, religion, gender or religion or color of skin, something like that. I mean, be consistent. The way that you treat, I mean, give them the same treatment. Give them the same treatment. Okay. Be someone who doesn't care about religion, who doesn't care about sex, who doesn't care about race, but what you are here for, do that. You teach your students, but you show them that you are, I mean, they are equal in front of you. Good. Be a listener. You're not just going to be the only one who's going to speak. I mean, to tell them your stories, maybe some stories that can help them be motivated. You're not going to be the only one to say that. Be a listener. Sometimes you need your students to tell you about themselves. You need your students to, I mean, to tell you about some, I mean, to tell you some stories that you think they can share with their friends in order to succeed in their lives. So let's move on to the next slide. Now, get your students involved in the classroom. This is another way to encourage your students to get involved in the classroom. Maybe give them some responsibilities. You are not going to be the only one who's going to do anything or everything in your classroom, but give them some, I mean, opportunities, give them some responsibilities in order for them to do something. For example, you can assign them homework, you can assign them a class work, for example, groupings or individual work. Okay, you know, sometimes you can assign them to clean the board or to decorate the classroom. Give them that opportunity. When you give them that opportunity, they will feel comfortable with you. They will feel comfortable learning your subjects. Good. Give them praise. I mean, reward and support. Whenever you assign or you give them some assignment to do, when they do well, make sure that you acknowledge it by saying, well done. Yes, when X does something that is well done, say that, yes, this one did something, or this group did this and they did it well. But be careful with your words. Don't just go over, I mean, beyond saying that it is excellent unless it is excellent. And they also need support. You can support them. Good. How to keep your students motivated. This part will depend on one teacher to another. It depends on your way of doing things. You can have your own strategies. Another teacher can have his own strategies to keep his students or her students motivated. So monitoring. Yes, this is one of strategies also that can help you keep your students motivated. You want to have them, you want to keep them on track. Okay, so after you set up an activity to your students, you will need to check their progress, okay, to see how they did it or how they are doing, and you give them feedback. Giving them feedback means you tell them where they failed and where they succeeded. Where they failed, don't just say it was badly done. You did it badly. No, but you can have, I mean, beautiful words in a beautiful way, telling them, yes, I think that you made mistake here, but I think next time you will not make the same mistake because as you has already seen how to deal with it next time. Or that can be, the feedback can be oral and it can be writing, for example, as our predecessor talked about feedback. So coaching or mentoring. Sometimes your students need to be guided. They need to be guided. They don't know. They are in a classroom. Sometimes some of them don't even know what they want to do in their future. So you can be a coach. Okay, you can be a mentor. You can tell them something about that. If you do this, you will succeed in your life. You give them some strategies that can help them succeed in their life. Good. Um, I have come with some inspirational quotes that can inspire us. And I start with students. I have come with two quotes. The first one is successful and unsuccessful people do not vary greatly in their abilities. They vary in their desires to reach their potential, said by John Maxwell. These codes are for students, but they are for every person who wants to entertain something, who wants to undertake something, anything. So it means that you successful person and an successful person, sometimes you are able to do things. You are able, the way that you are able to do things, the other one can be able to do the same thing. But what can be the difference is the desire that you have within you. Okay, the desire that you have within you. I mean, the burning desire that you can have to reach your goal, and the burning desire that someone else can have to reach their goal can be the difference between you and a successful person. The second one is you've got to get up every morning with determination if you're going to go to bed with satisfaction, by George Lorimer. Yes, whatever you want to undertake in life, if you don't have determination, if you don't do it with determination, I mean motivation, you will not have any satisfaction. You will never be satisfied. Let's move on to the next one. Now, these two are for teachers, okay? I love them so much, especially the second one. Teachers have three loves: the love of learning, the love of learners, and the love of bringing the first two loves together, by Scott Hayden. This is so interesting. A teacher must love what they do. If you don't love what you do, you will not do it well. So you should love what you do. You should be, I mean, in good mood. You should have the determination. You should love it first. It can be a passion for you. If you don't show, for example, your students that teaching is a passion for you, some of them will say, I will never be a teacher. But if you show them that it is a passion, and you know your subject, and you deal with your students, some of them will say, sir, I want to be like you. I want to be a teacher. Okay. That is the first love. The second love is you should love your learners. If you don't love your learners, how do you think your learners can learn something from you or from your subject? No way. So show them love, show them affection. The way that you wanted someone to treat well your children, the way that you want your children to acquire, to reach their goals in their lives, show them the same thing. And the third one, you love not only learning, but you love your learners. That is the second thing. You bring the two loves together. Sorry. So the second one is I'm not a teacher, but an awakener. You're not going to be only a teacher. You come, you give the class, and then you say, okay, it's over. Now see you next time. No, student won't be, they would not request something. Sometimes you say, you students, I know you believe. I know you are able. I believe that you can do something in your life. And I believe that you can master this subject. Please, stay strong and follow the class and keep motivated. I hope that you will reach your goal. And you try to relate what you are saying to your students so that they know that they have to learn, they have to apply that in order to succeed in their lives. Good. Let's move on to the next. I don't know, maybe Leviana, you can help me. I don't know what's wrong with my presentation. Okay, I will conclude by giving this saying from Zig Ziglar, one of the best motivational speakers around the world, who says, people often say that motivation doesn't last. Well, neither does bathing. That's why we recommend it daily. Ah, yes. If you say that motivation doesn't last, it depends on you. Motivation is something that we should not be separated with. Whatever the thing that we want to undertake in life, whatever the thing in every domain. So if you lack motivation, I'm sure that you will not do things well. And sometimes you can quit, and quitters are losers. Do never quit, but still have the motivation to go up to reaching your goal. Good. So I think this is the end of my presentation. I hope that it is grateful and So these are my contacts. Levy, I'm sorry because it's 16. I hope it was great. So thank you. Thank you all for listening.
Thank you very much, Manal. That was wonderful. I particularly like the part when you said that rapport or the good relationship between teachers and learners is actually one of the most important thing to motivate learners. Yeah, so it's really important to keep a good relationship with the students, which is include apply student centeredness while teaching, I think. Okay, thank you so much. Now we are moving on to the next presenter. We've got Taufik. Okay,
Okay.
Taufik, time is yours now.
Okay, thank you. So let me share the screen first. Just 1 second. See that my voice is clear? Everyone can hear me well? Okay. Is everyone can hear me well? Let's check the sound.
Yes, it's
Okay.
clear.
Good. So today we're gonna talk about managing and dealing with learning motivation and mood. So why this topic is very important. So let me share the full screen. Okay. So let's take a look on a summary of the presentation. The first idea that we can talk about is understanding learners types. Why this point is very important before planning the lesson. Why this point is so important to motivate your students. So the second point that we're going to talk about is the relationship between classroom activities and learning style or type. Why this point too is so important when you plan or when you plan your lesson plan to give a lesson or something like that. So the last point, the impact or the ways of a motivated teacher. So we give some ideas about a motivated teacher and give some solution how to avoid that type of teachers. Okay, so let's move to the next slide. So the slide number 1, we talk about, okay, let me move this way. The slide number 1 is talk about understanding learners type. Why this point is very important to plan your lessons. So there is so many types of learning type. The first one is, let me share, there's something wrong. So the first learner type is kinesthetic learning. So before starting describing this learner, so I will give you like a flashback on understanding learner's type, why this point is very important. That helps you to create your activities, to describe the lesson, to give them, for example, when you want to teach a grammar, for example, or teach a vocabulary, so you have to learn back from your students. That helps you to plan a lesson for them. So kinesthetic learner, so the most of the students basically like to move and use their body and adjustment. They move a lot. They don't want to stay focused only in one chair for about 1 or 2 hours. So they like to use their body, their adjustments, and their movements, right? So the second type of learners, so visual and auditory learner. So this kind of learner, it's physically like to see, for example, with nowadays with the technologies, they like to see the videos, so and also listen more, not like other students. Okay, the third type is logical mathematical learner. So this kind of learners who like the brainstorming, he would like to solve problems more. Who like, for example, so if you give them a story, for example, so they look for the secret. For example, there is some myths on the activity, so they like to check like a Columbo, Detective Columbo, or Sherlock Holmes stories. So they like that kind of stories and like that kind of activities. Okay, so the learner number four So interpersonal learner. So this type of learners who like to work in a group and do collaborative tasks. They work in a group, in a pairs, that's very helpful for them. So the number 4, so interpersonal learner, it's akin to the interpersonal learner. So this kind of learners, you like to work alone, you like to do this homeworks and tasks by themselves. You like to see his improvement by themselves. And the last one, I think, let me see. Sorry for the linguistic learner. The linguistic learner, he like to create their stories, like, and writing their poems and making this kind of activities. And there is a last one. There is another, I didn't mean it here. I didn't put it here. There's a last learner, is musical learners who like to listen more. So for example, in the early age of the students or young learners, when they start learning English, for example, the alphabets, we make like, teach them the alphabet by a sound. It's a good activity for them. So those kind of learners like this activity. So let's move to describe the relationship between classroom activities and learning style. So before targeting to the relationship between classroom activities and learning style, so let's do this interaction section. So match those activities with their specific learner. So everybody can help us for that. So just take 1 minute and do this task. Match those activities with their specific learner. So what do you think from the previous slides? And give your answers in the chat box, please. Just for 1 minute. Hello, other teachers. So please match those activities with their specific learner. Before talking about the classroom activities and learning types. Hello. So please match those activities with their specific learner. Let's do an interaction between the teachers here for just 1 minute. Yeah, I've seen some answers here. So number 4 with G, Derek. Number 4 with G, so 4 with G. The intelligent kind of logical learner too, yeah. Video for visual learners. Yeah, okay. So let's move to talk about the relationship between the activity. I think I get a good answers here. So video games, for example, for a visual learner. And number 5, drawing and painting with number F, so visual and auditory. Yeah. But I would like to give a before moving to the next slide, I would like to give like a flashback on the learners. So the type of learners. So one student, for example, they can be a multiple kind of learner style, because maybe the student can like a logical learner, like can like moving a lot, so it can be a kinesthetic learner too, and also you can work in a group, it like working in a group. So not just a student have only one style, so can have multiple styles. So that gives you more opportunities to think more about the activities that describe the lesson that you want to teach them. So let's explain more about that in the next slide. And thank you, teacher, for sharing your answers. So here we're going to talk about relationship between the classroom activities and the learner type or style. So the activity, it's working with the learner type. It's doing like a reversible process. So the activities, it's reflect on the learner's types, and the learner's type is describe the activity. So both of us, we're making like a process. We don't need to to use one except another one. So they make together, they combine together to give a lesson. So for example, if you give a chain, if you imagine that we have a chain, a piece of chain, and we have a teacher, and we have a student, and also we have a lesson. So what thing that can regrow, that can intersect between them is the activities. So the activity is very important to match this chain and to combine all components to give a lesson. So the goal for the activity is to engage them in the lesson and also to help them to make the class easier and enjoyable for the students. And also another thing, facilitate the task for them. So for example, the activity, so for a kinesthetic learner, for example, so those kind of students who like to move a lot, and those kind of activities to help that type of learners. So the activity is very, very important. And also the learner's type, it's so important too, to think more about them. So for example, you did like, how can I say, a previous report or assignment for your student that helps you to learn more about them, to know what kind of student that you have in a class. And that helps you to make the activity when you plan for the lesson for them. So for example, another example here for interpersonal learner. So that kind of students who like to work and collaborate with each other. So when you plan for a task for them, so you think that on consideration. So you make like a small groups and you give them a different task for the same topic. That helps them to engage them, that helps them to engage more and also to feel motivated to learn with you. So let's move here. We describe how the teacher and the activities can evolve their students' motivation and change their mood. So the first thing for the teacher, I think, the flexibility. So the teacher must be flexible. Flexible, for example, when you plan for a task and you doesn't find any feedback from them. So that's why maybe the way of teaching it's maybe they don't understand the game, for example, or the activity, or maybe they find it that is not relevant to them. So that's why when you want to teach something, you have to teach it in different ways that we can be flexible. That helps you to be flexible. And creativity. So the task should be creative. So the activity that you choose, for example, to teach creative, and the variation is also very important. So the task, for example, you teach them, for example, a present simple tense, for example. So the variation is very important here. Is like you need to teach them in a different way. So you have many ways to teach them, many activities to teach them that task. You know, just only one. You repeat it over time. It's kind of boring for them. That's why you have to change it. So the group activity. So the group activity is very important too. So you make kind of pairs or put them in a breakout rooms. For example, if you teach online, you put them in a breakout room. They give them a different task for the same topic. For example, you give them a story. For example, they need to analyze the paragraph, for example, or if you teach them a vocabulary or you want them to learn some new vocabulary, or you want them to learn about the grammar. So you give them a task, they share their opinions to each other, and they give you the result for that in the main room. So number 3 is open talks or international classes. So that is help and motivate the student more to interact with other students from another country. So So with the online classes, that's helpful very much. That's allow us to make international classes with different students from another countries too. It's a good task for them to help them in the motivation. For example, the students are the same age from another country, from a different country, and they talk with each other and they do in the class together. That's a good point for them too. So number 4, clear goals of learning English. For example, they have to give them a real purpose of learning English or doing a task that they need to be relative to their context and their real life. For example, sometimes from my experience, when I was a young learner, for example, the teacher gave us some vocabulary that we don't use in daily. That is kind of boring and motivated things. So that's why the clear goals of learning English for them, it's so important to motivate them. So number 5, inspiring and the funny games, for example, or activities. So this teacher should be make an activity inspiring. Every day need to change the way of teaching. For example, given a task, for example, you teach, for example, new vocabulary, so you have a different way. For example, today we're gonna use a flashcard. Tomorrow you're gonna use another thing, for example, a story, for example. Another thing you're gonna use visual things. So that is gonna be different. So it's I think it's exactly about the teacher. So who need to have a big data of games and learning more about that to change the games from time to time. And the pair chicken. So the teacher shouldn't give the feedback always overuse the feedback for the students. So the pair chicken, so make them in a pairs, and between each other, they give a feedback. So they discuss with each other and they learn from each other and they give, no, don't put that here. So for example, when you give them a task to arrange a vocabulary or making a paragraph about a story. So they share their ideas. So don't put that here. So this story is about the past, and they discuss with each other and they came up with a result. That's the pair chicken. It's helped them a lot. So the teacher doesn't be to give always the feedback after them. And the building report. For example, when you give them a task and there is a weak students in the class, for example, and doesn't show up, they give a feedback from the lesson. Maybe they don't understand. So you have to lead them and to support them and to scaffold their knowledge to help them to integrate in the class and to follow the other students. So it's a good point for this kind of learners. Okay, so let's move to another slide. Okay. So here there is some ideas that describe a motivated teacher, and we give some idea to avoid that. So the tone of voice, so the teacher shouldn't use only the same rhythm when you talk with his student. It's kind of boring for them. So always you have to change the tone of voice. For example, when you teach a story, for example, when you need to read a story for them, so you have to change your voice for a different persons in the story. So you don't need to use only the same voice. And the second thing, giving a lot of feedback. So the teacher overuse the feedback, it's kind of unmotivated for the students. It's kind of motivated teacher too. And motivated teacher too, not motivated. So number 3, so the lesson doesn't apply for student interests. So the teacher must learn more about his students to know about their interests, what they like, what they don't like, their hobbies, something like that helps you to create the class and to think more about the activity that's sweet to them. So the teacher's talking time. So the point number 4, teacher talking time is overused. So the teacher talk always. So you have to give them the opportunity to talk and to share their ideas and to lead them. So the teacher's talk time is very important for motivating the student too. So number 5, creativity. So the teacher is not creative. He doesn't like what he's doing. He doesn't come up with a new idea with the same task. Maybe the students feel bored for to do the same task. For example, the grammar task in the same way. It's kind of a motivated way to teach them. So number 6, less in context. It's must understand the student's background. For example, you give them a task, it's not relevant to their level. For example, if they have a low level, for example, they won't understand you, they won't give a feedback, they won't listen to you at all. So that's why you have to know more about their background in the language, for example. And the last point over here, so the activity and structure must be clear, easy, and understandable. So when you give them a task or a game, for example, you have to be clear. You don't need to rush in a structure or give them a lot of information. So the points have to be clear, that they can understand you and then understand the game and follow the game too. Okay, so I think it's the last slide. So I think it's the last slide. So thanks you for your attention and thanks for coming to see my presentation. If you have any questions, so you can ask me. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you so much, Taoufik. I really like the way you make the relationship between the learner's learning style with the appropriate activities to really motivate them. Yeah, that is really interesting. Okay, now we are in the discussion session. Actually, this is the heart of this event. Now, if any of you would like to share your own experience, your own story, or you would like to share your own tips, then you are welcome to do so. Or if you would like to ask questions to both presenter, you're also welcome to do so. Yeah. If you would like to do it live, then you can click on the raise hand button down there so I can recognize you. And if you would like to do it on chat, you can also do that. Yeah, so I'll be waiting here. Okay. All right. Questions, feedback, stories? Okay. Someone, Devi would like, please share the link YouTube of this meeting. I would like to watch next time. Definitely, Devi, don't worry. I will do it. Okay, Sukma. Sukma is here to ask questions. Okay, please, Sukma.
Okay, thank you, Devi.
Yes.
Thank you for the presenters. I think it's very interesting topic today. It's about motivation, and perhaps I give my opinion about what you have said before. I think that we need to collect some data from students, like students' background, interests, and learning style, if we want to motivate them. Is that correct? Thank you, Levi.
Yes, exactly. Exactly when we want to, for example, the activity is very important at that point. So the activity who describe the lesson. For example, you want to teach them grammar, so you need to choose an activity that's relevant to their background, their interests, that help them to engage in the lesson. So that's why it's very important to choose the activity that's relevant to them. For example, the kinesthetic learner who liking moving a lot, so you have to use that for them, not for you, for them to engage in the lesson. That's what I want to mean by activity in learner side.
Right. Thank you, Taufik. Would you like to add anything, Malal? That it is important to really collect the information about our learners beforehand. What do you think?
Yeah, this is really important. But sometimes, as we know, we have a curriculum to respect. Collecting all the things that will not be easy, because you have to do what you have to do is well organized. This is a program that you're going to give. And I don't think if you trying you can have all, those students can be interested in.
Mm. Right. I mean, the same thing, for example, if you are students, I mean, teachers in a state school, I can see that there are many teachers from state schools here. There is a curriculum, as you said, Malal, that we have to respect, that we have to really deliver to the students. But in my own experience, for example, one way to still motivate them and at the same time respect the curriculum or follow the curriculum is that by making the varieties of the activity to deliver the topic or the targets, the language targets. I think that's one thing that we can do, I guess, to do both, yeah, to respect the curriculum and respect the learner's learning style. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Sukma, for the interesting questions and feedback. Now, who else would like to ask perhaps or share your experience? How do you deal with your students or your children perhaps? Because I can see that there are some parents here as well. So if you would like to share, how do you motivate your children at home, especially in online learning? Yeah, what do you do when your children look unmotivated? Anyway, there's a question from Derek. Hello, Derek from Myanmar, I guess, yeah?
Okay, so I think the question is for me, right?
Let's see. How can I know which type of learners are my student? Yes, of course, you can start, Taoufik.
Yeah, I think it depends on it's according to the assignment that you use it before they started the class. But it's like it takes a long time. It's not just when you want to start a lesson. It's not just you check them before. So that's every time, every single day that you work with them, that to help you to know them more, what they like, what they don't like. Sometimes the open talks or international classes between other students, that helps a lot to know this point. When they ask each other about their interests, their hobbies, what they like, what they don't like. So that helps you to gather more information about your students, and you help you too to create, when you want to give them a lesson, you know more about what they like more, and that's give you another idea to learn about their learner style. So the open talks, it have a lot on that.
Right,
Because
right.
the time of giving a formal lesson, it doesn't give you a time to learn more about them. So that's it.
Yeah, like like have a casual chit chat with your students, right?
Yeah, yes.
Just to ask
Exactly.
them what kind of movies do you like? Did you
Yeah,
watch the last Avengers movies?
especially when they work, for example, when you make like online classes with other students from another country, international classes have a lot on that. So the students talk just in each other, not with the teacher. So just the teacher is leading the section, and the student, they talk with each other, and you gather more information. So it's like you have to make like a report of your students, and that helps you a lot.
Right, right. Thank you, Taufik.
Yeah,
Would
yeah,
you like to add something, Malo? Or maybe anybody else? It's really okay if you would like to add something else. Okay. I would wait. Okay. There is another question here from Ayumi. Yeah. Ayumi asked, how to deal with students who have different level in one class, how to motivate them, especially the less participated students. The more they see their advanced friends, the more they feel like insecure to perform theirs. Now, how about Malal starts to answer this one, and then if you have something to add according to your experience, Tawfiq, how do you deal with this? Now, Malal, according to your own experience, have you ever experienced this before in your classroom? Wait, where's Malal, by the way? Hello? Oh dear.
I
Rich.
think Malal might have been having connection problems. I think
Okay.
Oh,
I noticed his camera froze a couple of minutes ago.
Oh yeah. Oh
I
dear.
hope he'll be back. Let's hope.
I hope so too. Okay. Thanks, Rich.
So
Yeah, Taufik.
I would like
what do
to
you
add
think?
some points on that too. So the group activities have a lot on that. So when you match them in a groups, so you choose on a different. You don't need to choose only the excellent student alone, and you need to match them, mix them, and that's help them and give them more confidence to talk with their peers and to solve the problems. That's what I do in my classes when I have a weak student. So I sometimes I lead them, I support them, I lead them to the answer. Just help them to see. It's not kind of weakness in the language. It's sometimes it lack for motivation or they don't feel confident to talk in front of their peers. Sometimes I find that that's a problem is really common.
Right. It's there is something called differentiations in teaching, right? How to work with different levels in the classroom. It might be interesting one day to really specifically talk about this because it's an issue happening in many classrooms, I guess. Okay. Is there anyone would like to share how do you deal with this? How do you deal with the different levels in your own classroom? Do you put them, as Taufik said, in the group so they can manage themselves and talk within the group only, or Devi has the same problem? Yes, me too. I think it's relevant to any classroom. What do you do? Do you give them a different task? Do you give them a different activities, or what do you do? If there's anyone who would like to share. Auntie, all right, please. Auntie, raise your hand. Go ahead. I'm sorry, you are still mute.
Yeah, thank you very much for your chance.
Sure.
What I can share actually, I used to teach young learners. The students were in elementary school, something like that. And what I did actually, I always put them into some groups. Yeah, I think you know it's I didn't put them in a based on their same level, but maybe the smarter and the advanced, and then and so on. I put them into group, and then for especially for the less participated, or let's say uh, weak student, I always give them like an extra class. So I always say you have to stay at the class after the class, and you have to stay in the room because I want to I give the extra activity for the students, especially for the less participated or the weak one. And actually, I also have a question here. Can I ask something?
Yes, please.
Yeah. I used to teach young learners, and what I paid attention to is they always demand me to make like a game before starting the topic of the day. So always, let's say, ma'am, can we have a game before before we start the class? So every day they demanded me to create a new game for them before starting the class. Do you think that this kind of request or this kind of gaming activity is good for the students, especially for young learners? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank
you
you
very much.
Right. Thank you, Auntie. That's a very interesting feedback and questions. So according to Auntie, put them in the group could be one way to solve the problem with differentiations, and for Auntie give some extra lessons for the weaker students could also be a solution. And Auntie also asked us, game every day, every time the lesson starts, before the lessons. So, okay, let me ask you first, Taufik, what do you think about the situations? You face the same issue?
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. So like you did a revision of the last lesson. It's a quite good if you give them a quick game. That is good. Or the lesson that you start, you teach them from the lesson through with an activity, a game that they like. That is good too.
Right. Okay, thank you. I think this kind of issue also happens in other classroom. I remember, if you remember, Rich, when we had this independent research, questions the teachers in Indonesia what kind of problems or issues that they face in the classroom. One of them is same to Antis, yeah, that the students always demand games, and is it good? And how do we deal with this? Yeah. Okay. Right. If that's okay, Rich, I would like to ask your opinions about this, about the differentiations and also about game. Before I welcome everybody else to give a comments as well.
Okay, I think it's a complicated one. I'll take them one by one. When it comes to games, we are as teachers one step ahead of the students. So my attitude on this is, particularly young learners, if young learners say they want a game, you can give them the same activity you were going to give them, but just call it a game. Make it slightly competitive. If the activity was a reading passage with questions, you can make that a game by saying, okay, everybody, let's stand up. Here's the reading that you have to do. First to finish the reading activity in 3 minutes can run to the board and write the answers up. So you've actually just taken a normal reading activity and made it into a game. You can actually lie to the students that you have given them a game when actually you've just given them the same activity. Does that make sense to everyone? That's one strategy here. I think one possible problem, though, with always giving a game is that it's like we're negotiating a contract with the students. We will study if we have a game. I think in the long run, is this a good strategy for building autonomous learners? I'm not sure. I'm not sure it's a good strategy in the long run. So sometimes you might also have to be firm and say, the game will come later, be patient, we will do the difficult bit now. I believe in you, and find other tactics for motivating. So yes, you can turn anything into a game. No reason why not. But at the same time, you also want to have a solid relationship, not just a contract with your learners. That's my view on that.
Right.
Differentiation. I agree with Levy that differentiation is a very big topic and probably needs a whole session.
Yeah.
Actually, I liked some of Auntie's ideas. I also organize learners into small groups, and I have different levels in the same group. Try to pair stronger learners with middle learners with perhaps weaker learners, but also set different goals for each learner. So for instance, as an example, I often organize tables. One person is the leader of the table, the monitor, but the leader, I normally ask the weakest student because it's the easiest role to control. I give the weakest student the task of making everybody else speak English. And this gives them some power. It makes them feel valid in the situation, but also I can give them a script. I can say, if anyone doesn't speak English, I want you to say, please speak English in this class. So they know what to say, they know what they're doing. And this can help them to build confidence in saying the same thing over and over. It gives them some status. It's predictable. There's lower anxiety. So that's one technique I've used in the past. Have groups, but give a powerful role to the least strong speaker, so that they know that they're going to be fully active and they don't just sit there quietly while everyone else speaks around them. That's my that's one of my tactics anyway. I'm interested to know what other people think.
Thanks, Rich. Okay. Yeah, me too. I'm also interested to know what other people do in their own classroom. Meanwhile, while we are waiting for others to comment on that one, there are also some questions here, I guess. I'm a junior high school. Okay, hold on. I'm a junior high school teacher. Our problem is big class. Yes, the problem with state school, to be honest. And most of them from state elementary school, and they didn't study English before. This is Indonesian case. I don't know with Morocco, with Guinea, with the UK. Of course, it's different with the UK. But we try to motivate them and make them confident. We make a program of English literacy program to make them try to speak English. Oh, this is also a tip actually here. Make a program of English literacy program to make them to speak English. Okay, that's interesting. Juju, thank you very much. And Ira has a question here. Some students are very lazy to do their task, especially in this online learning. Same. Do you also face something like this? How do you solve this problem? Okay, unmotivated students in online environments. Okay. I can see that Malal has back in the room, I guess. Hello again, Malal. Welcome back. Okay. Right.
Well, thank you. I had lost my connection. I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
It's getting me nervous now. Really.
You were fine. Thank you so much for coming back. Okay, so there is a question here. It's whether you or Taoufik would like to respond according to your own experience. What do you do to motivate learners during online learning because they don't want to do their task? The same thing happened to you, Malo? Oh, sorry.
That's why, okay.
Taoufik.
I would like to share a point about that. That's why when I give a presentation on that, so the activity, so it's really, so the activities for the physical class is totally different from activity it's on online class. So the teacher here, the role of teacher is to think more, to make like a database of activities, and then they can use them in an online class. So you don't need to, for example, to teach the same class on the same way, the same activity every day. It's kind of boring and motivate them. So that's why you need to be creative, to be inspiring for other teachers, those other to do a lot of collaboration with different teachers around the world. That helps you a lot to give you more ideas how to teach this task with a different way. So it's kind of challenging for the teacher nowadays. Is, for example, you get a task from a physical class and you need to project them in an online class. It doesn't work. So the way is going to be different. So that's why the creativity and inspiring idea for the teacher, it works here on that problem. So the activity in general, who describe the lesson, the whole lesson. So that's why they need to be unique, and inspiring.
Right.
So that's what I did. So I like to make like a database of games, for example, teaching grammar, vocabulary, something like that. That's helped me a lot. And also you need to sign up in different groups on Facebook or to see a lot of videos on YouTube too. That helps you a lot to come up with a new idea every day. So you need to do an update over time. You don't need to do the same way all the time. So that's exactly what I do in my, but it's challenging, right? It's not that easy, but it's come with the time.
Right. So keep using a different varieties of activity, even though you are having an online classroom. Yeah. Okay. Have you got any comment, Malal? Would you like to add some tip?
Not really. I share Taufik's ideas. You have to be creative, change things sometimes, change activities. I think I share his ideas also.
Right. Yeah, and a discussion forum like this one, actually, as Taufik said, can also help you, yeah, to come up with new ideas. Okay. Right. I guess one more questions, if there is any. One more questions or feedback before we go to the pedagogical overview. Oh, Nadia and sorry, and Mbak Kiki. Okay, right. Nadia, go ahead.
Okay. Hello, everyone. So this is my first time talking here, and I would like to ask a question because I'm now working as a private tutor. So it's like a private teaching. I mean, like all these guys may be talking about teaching in a group, but I teach like one student in every class, in each class. So I think I get more flexibility when it comes in my class because yeah, I just like have to handle one student in one class, but I kind of struggle in terms how I finish my lesson plan because it's too flexible, you know. So can you guys, the experienced teachers here, give me the advice how I handle, my lesson plan time so I can finish in like I can estimate how long I finish one lesson plan. It's just not just like very random, just like maybe in 2 classes or just like in more times like 5 classes. It's depending on one student. So can you please give advice for a kind of teaching like a private teaching mode? Thank you.
Thank you, Nadia. Very interesting. Flexibility versus necessity to really complete the lesson planning.
Right.
Do you, Taufik or Malal, got a similar problem? Do you also teach in the private format context?
Like you're teaching only one student. I
Yeah.
never teach only one student, but I teach in groups. But I think the idea for that kind of issue in the learning for the student, for one student, for example, or one level. So you have to know what is the aim that you want to teach him before to plan the lesson. So for example, you want to teach him a new vocabulary, for example, about vegetables or fruits, for example. So you can do it in a different way. You don't need to be linked with the curriculum, for example. Yeah. So the aim is like to teach him a new vocabulary about vegetables. So just make an activity on a physical, that's like flashcard games that they help them. Just they play. They feel that they are not learning. They're just playing. So they will motivate them more and help them to engage in in the class, and you can finish it, I think, in a short time. So you don't need to take a lot of time. That's I think my point of view on that topic.
Right. So stick with the target. Okay.
Yes,
Malal.
stick with the target.
Stick with the target. Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you have any comment?
It's almost the same thing. It's almost the same thing. I teach, private class, but home private classes. Okay, mostly I don't accept just one single student because I say that it is a language that I'm teaching, and learning a language alone would not be easy. Sometimes I try to say to that person just to have someone else who can maybe have the same level with them, so that the activities that I'm going to set up, so that they try. When you are the teacher, you have a higher level than your student. Sometimes communicating, giving, for example, conversation will not be easy for a student to understand you easily. But if he has or she has someone else who can maybe have the same level, understanding each other will be easier sometimes. So, but when it is one single person, as Taufik said, I'm not going to focus on the curriculum, but I'm going to see the level of the student and know what am I going to give that student so that he learns or she learns better. This is what I mostly do.
Right, right. Thank you. Thank you, Malal. In my own experience, what I usually do is that to put some time setting for each activity. So for example, when you write your lesson plan, you will usually put something like first warm up, second presentation, third, and so on, so on, so on. I usually put some time limits, even though you won't be so strict with that, but it could help you. For example, okay, it's been too long for the game or for the presentation. I have to stop here and then I have to move to the practice part, for example. So sometimes to really set the time limits could help. Although, of course, like Malal and Taufik say, we shouldn't be too strict with that. We have to be flexible and follow the students' level or interest, yeah, or their goals, especially. Okay, thank you. The very last one is from. Wait, hold on. I would like to see if there is a. Okay, Ayumi actually has the idea here. For me, I have to know their level first. That's trick number one. Give pre-test to know what I can work on. Then I will make like 15-minute meetings with some activities. But I will give them opportunity to meet other private students or forum to practice theirs. Yes, so still put them in. Sometimes make them meeting the other students could help. Okay, now, Mbak Rizky, the very last questions before the pedagogical overview from Rich. Go ahead, Mbak Kiki.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Levy, for the opportunity. First, maybe I want to everyone that here I'm as a parent, not a teacher, because I'm not a teacher, especially an English teacher. So if my English is not so good, please be. I want to ask. I want to ask you about that Miss Levy tells before that how to maintain the our child, how to maintain the motivation of our child. Then what is yeah, how to keep our child keep how to keep the motivation. Like the Malal said before that our children believe that their teacher is more than anyone else, and more than anyone else, and the parents too. Maksudnya the teachers is will be know best than the parents. So when the parent want to teach the children in the home, at the home, sometimes children didn't get motivated and or didn't want to teach with their parent. So I want how to keep the motivation. And maybe I want to ask too, is there what is like
tips?
Yeah, what is apa ya? How to tell? I want to have a comment with the Miss. What is before said that if there is a different level. Now with the lower level, she said that she will give an extra class But are you teacher even think about to have a have a connection how to connection with their parent? So maybe the teacher have you ever think to maybe ask their parent with children with the lower level to collaborate. So maybe the children can catch up the level or yeah, something like that. Maybe is there any chance to parents and teacher collaborate to something like that to keep their on fire or keep their motivate and to catch up the the level the level of children in the class. And so to make like monitoring the children or the learner. Jadi so the teacher can monitoring the learner also with us to their parent. Is there something like that? Semoga
Yes.
You can understand what I mean. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. I think we can understand you fully. So, so how do you motivate learners at home? How we are here talk as a teacher, of course. So maybe is there any way for us teacher to help or to collaborate with the parents to help them keep motivated at home? Yeah. And is there any have you had any experience of collaborating with the parents? I do have that experience, but I would like to ask Malal and Taufik if you have experienced something like that. Would you like to start, Taufik?
I would like to share just a point about that. I would like to ask her about the material that she used. If she used a curriculum from the government that uses public books, for example, or she chose the activity by herself. That is totally different. For example, if you need to follow a curriculum, it's totally different to use your own or to choose. So the activities that you choose or the idea. So you need to the first thing you need to know your level of your kids first. And then you can choose the activity that's related to them. So it's a good point. You're not stuck with a curriculum if you teach them. Just you have a freedom to choose whatever you want. But if you use a curriculum from the government, it's totally different. You need to stick over there and to do all the tasks over there. But I think it's quite a little bit difficult for them. So if you choose that to teach them freely, so you have to know more about their level and to choose the activity that help them step by step that they go ahead on level. So that's what I wanted to give on that. And that's all.
Right. Thank you, Taufik. Would you like to add anything, Malal? Maybe a bit short.
Yes, actually. Firstly, I like that, collaboration between parents and teachers, because when I said that students believe in their teachers more than their parents sometimes, but if there is a collaboration between the parents and the teacher, maybe the parent can ask the teacher the same activities that he does in the class, that motivates the students, so that parent try just to apply the same thing. Maybe the students will say, hey, this is the same thing that we're doing at school. So maybe that motivation will come. So that collaboration will help better. Yeah, that's what I wanted to say.
I agree with you, Malal. We can always involve the parents, to really to help the learners to learn language, especially because 2 hours per week is not enough, right? If you only learn with the teacher alone, yeah. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much.
And also, I have another point about that. And also, I think the teacher can guide the parents too, guide the teacher can guide the parents to choose their materials to use at home. That is very important too.
Right. Collaboration is the key. Thank you, Taufik. Okay. Oh wow. I think we had a very productive discussions this evening. Thank you so much for Malal and Taufik, and for everybody else for your contributions. Now, Richard here is going to do the hard job, which is going to make the pedagogical overview of everything that we've been talking about. Richard, the time is yours.
Thank you. That was a very productive discussion. We said a lot and discussed a lot of things in this question and answer session. So thank you everyone for your questions and comments and ideas. Thank you especially though to Malal and to Taufik for your presentations. They were very informative. I'll keep the summary quite short, if I may, because I think we've already discussed a lot of this, some key terminology, the importance of rapport. The importance of rapport between the teacher and the student is central in motivation. We talked about needs analysis. Needs analysis is that systematic process of understanding our learners. It's when we ask direct questions to our learners. What are your motivations? Why do you want to learn? How do you enjoy learning? Sometimes, if we ask these questions directly, we can be surprised by the answers. So it's worth asking systematically to find out about learners' goals. And if you look online, you'll find lots of needs analysis tools, lots of basic questionnaires or basic survey models for needs analysis. We talked about differentiation, about making sure that our lessons work for students with different learning styles. Taufik in particular had a lot to say about different learning styles and also different levels of ability in the same class. And we talked about different ways to achieve differentiation, setting tasks with different possible levels of outcome, where every student can work to their own pace. We talked about that. For differentiation, to understand your learners' levels, you might want to use some diagnostic testing, if you've heard of this, needs analysis to find out your learners' motivations, diagnostic testing to find out what the weaknesses are, where are the gaps in their knowledge. If I give you an example, when teaching advanced learners when I do diagnostic testing, I often find their speaking is very confident, but tenses are a problem, for example. So I then think, okay, I've understood this is the issue. Now I'll design tasks to correct this. That's one example. When I taught previously in a university in Japan, it was almost the opposite. Grammar, very strong, speaking, very weak, very strange. To say anything, everyone needed 2 or 3 minutes of before they said one sentence, lots of panicking and nervousness around speaking in particular. So my diagnostic testing found this, so I designed the lessons accordingly. I could design my lessons to meet their needs. So needs analysis, diagnostic testing to feed into differentiation. Another key concept I want to introduce you to, it's an interesting one, is around types of questions. and referential questions. Have you heard of display questions and referential questions?
Mm-hmm.
Roughly speaking, display questions is when the teacher asks you a question because they want to see if the student knows the answer. So, for example, what is the past tense of eat? And the student says, oh, the past tense of eat is ate. And the teacher says, yay, well done, good. And that's a display question. I know the past tense of eat. I don't need to ask you. I'm asking to check if you know. That's a display question. A referential question is when I actually want to know the answer. So a display question may be, can you name 5 hobbies? A referential question, so tell me about you. What are your hobbies? Because I actually want to know. I'm asking about something real and I want to know. When it comes to teaching grammar, we use display questions a lot. We have to check. Did the student understand? Yes or no? We need display questions. But building rapport is much more about referential questions, asking real questions. I think students know the difference in their hearts. They know if you're asking because you're being a teacher, or if you're asking because you actually care and want to know. Ideally, you want to move towards as many referential questions as you can. You want to move to as many real questions where you're genuinely asking because you genuinely want to get to know them and you want them to get to know each other. This is authentic English in the classroom. Some people say teacher asking the student questions cannot be authentic. It can be authentic. It absolutely can. If I'm interested in my students' lives, I can ask them referential questions. Why not? And so this is an important distinction. In your own teaching, this is something to think about. How can you increase the number of real questions, of referential questions, where you really want to know the answer? There's a couple more points from psychology I want to introduce, if I may. I realize it's late in Indonesia. I can see some of you are tired. I don't want to make you too stressed, but I'm going to introduce. I hope so. But I'm going to introduce, I'll introduce one more concept actually from psychology. This is the concept called, maybe you've heard of it, cognitive dissonance. Have you heard of cognitive dissonance? Okay, cognitive dissonance is a theory from psychology. Cognitive dissonance is when you are in a situation where what you thought is true and what you can see in front of you are not the same. So you believe something quite strongly, then you see something and it doesn't fit with how you thought the world is. Cognitive dissonance is that feeling of stress that you get in that moment. Sometimes, for example, some students who have low motivation and low confidence in their English level, sometimes this is because they believe English is for, that's for elite people. That's for people from rich families. They speak English and go shopping in Singapore. That's not what I do. You know, I live in the kampong and I just shop locally and that's not my life. That's not my world. Sometimes when they start succeeding in English, they do well in English tests, they are learning, they're communicating. Sometimes they don't believe it. In their own hearts, they still can't accept this because they're thinking, oh no, but you know, I speak some English, yeah, but only a little. I'm not very good. Not like those people in Jakarta, you know, in the nice areas of Jakarta where they go shopping abroad, and I'm not like them. I just speak a little. And it's like, no, 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 you are actually quite good. You've learned a lot. You're doing well. This is cognitive dissonance. They have a strong belief that English is not for them, even if the reality is they're doing very well. This cognitive dissonance is a big challenge for teaching. It's a big challenge. In the UK, we have this problem a lot. So obviously we speak English as our first language here. We all learn French or German or Spanish in school, depending on your school. Most British people believe, oh, but you know, language learning, nah, it's not for me. It's not for me. I don't travel. You know, my life is here. I'm not very good at that. But the evidence is, no, you're doing well. You're doing well. Oh, yeah, but you know, I'm not going to go abroad. So, and it can be very hard to break that because you're challenging a very deep belief in their hearts. So the challenge for us as teachers is, how do we convince them that speaking English well is a realistic target? It is realistic. It's very realistic. Everybody in this Zoom conversation speaks English well. I don't feel I'm talking to elite people. I feel I'm talking to normal people. I'm normal, I think. I think I'm talking to normal people. So obviously it's a realistic target. But sometimes our students don't believe that. And that's the final hurdle, maybe. Sometimes a conversation where you say, you said you don't speak English well. Why do you think you don't speak it well? Where does this belief come from? You know, you said you feel that you only speak a little. Why do you say a little? Where does the word a little come from? Sometimes a conversation to actually challenge this belief can be very important in moving to the next stage, in addressing the belief that actually you have the right to speak well. It's an important concept from psychology that I wanted to introduce here because it links to a lot of the motivation conversation that Malal and Taoufik were talking about. Malal in particular mentioned the importance of motivational quotes and motivational speaking. Motivational speaking works for this reason, because it can force us to think, actually, I have the right to succeed. I'm allowed to succeed. It's okay to succeed. I don't have to, you know, have a very small local life if I want to. I can achieve things if I want to, and it is important. Those are the main points that I wanted to cover today. If anyone has any questions about any of those, please do ask. That's everything from me. And thank you once again to Malal, to Taoufik, and to everybody with your questions. Thank you.
All right, brilliant. Thank you, Rich. I particularly like the idea when you mentioned that teachers can actually have another role, that is as a researcher, that researching her or his own classroom, yeah, with the diagnostic testing, with the need analysis, and also to keep challenge the students with questions to break their belief that they can't achieve things. Yeah, I really like that ideas. Thank you. Okay, as Rich mentions, if there is someone wants to ask or give final feedback, you are welcome to do so. Hold on. I didn't. Okay. All right. Very good motivation, someone said. Great, great. I'm glad that this discussions around motivations is not only give us some ideas how to motivate learners, but also give some motivation for us teachers Yeah, so that's one important things. Okay, right. So if that's so, that will be all right. That will be the end of our. Oh, there are someone raise hands actually. Bu Juju, yes,
Yeah.
please.
Yeah, just as thank you. You have good chance to give my opinion. That thank you, Mr. Richard, that you have said that this. I agree with you that some shouldn't think that English is for elite, what elite people. Yes. I have a student, only one student maybe. She can speak English very well, but many of my students, yes, they don't care. I think. I just want to know how we. What is it that you said that is a realistic? Was it realistic achievement? What do you say that? Yeah? Because many of my students think that English is not important for spoken. This to only for test, for exam, okay, or for written like that. So how can we motivate this? Motivate many of students that English is very we can achieve that it's realistic. How we can motivate them that English is speaking English is a realistic thing. Okay, thank you. I want to know the answer. How can we motivate to make sure that English is relative achievement? Thank you.
Right.
It's a really good question. Sorry, I'm jumping straight in. I'm getting too excited.
Go ahead.
It's a really important question. One thing I find interesting is in Indonesia, I used to find this a lot, particularly with boys. If I talk to them about football, they know all the terminology in English. They are very confident talking about terminology. And in fact, even at a basic level, they probably have the skills to commentate on a football match. They probably would be able to do a commentary. I used to use this kind of task a lot. Similarly, with female students, I find Indonesia, I think boys and girls by and large do tend to have gender specific hobbies, it's fair to say, to some degree. Many of my female students, even if their English wasn't brilliant, could talk to me in some detail about Korean drama. They could describe the basic story of a drama, and they could do this with very little help. I could say to them, tell me the story, and they would somehow find a way. So are you familiar with task-based learning, I guess, because we've talked about task-based learning before. So sometimes starting with a task in a task-based learning model, which is open, they have the opportunity to use any language they want, let them find the solution themselves, can give them a chance to shine, a chance to show that actually there is one thing they can talk about in English very, very well. And I sometimes use this to start the conversation. But you told me you can't speak English and you've just told me a whole story. So you can actually. Do you see what I mean? I try to use this as a moment of cognitive dissonance. With other students, I've tried food. Some students can describe food in lots of detail. Some students have an ability to recommend restaurants. It's very strange. But I find there's normally one thing where they can do it. They have a surprising vocabulary, maybe because they just watch National Geographic or because they've watched a certain cartoon and they've remembered certain things. And sometimes it takes a while to find what it is, but when you find it, use it. Okay. Does that answer your question, Juju?
Juju? Okay.
Good, I can get it. Thank you, Mr. Richard.
Right, right. Yeah, I think to really again we come back to the role of teacher as a researcher, that researching our students in interest and hobbies perhaps, yeah, and really use that to motivate them and to as Richard said, as a as an opportunity for cognitive dissonance, and said, oh, you say you can't speak English, but you just taught me the whole stories about the last um, Korean drama, for example. Yeah, so we can really use that. Okay, right, right. That was really interesting topic. In the future, we might want to do this again with the topic around, for example, differentiations or cognitive dissonance in particular. Who knows? Okay, so yeah, that will be the end of the teacher's talk, the series. I mean, yeah, so this is the sixth, and that will be the end and the final series. We will come up with the next series in the future. I hope please follow up in Instagram there in my English club underscores BPPN, or at the foundations Yayasan Bangun Tunas Cerdas Idea, to learn more about our next events in the future. Yeah. So once again, thank you so much for your participations, for coming this evening. Thank you so much for Malal and also Taufik for sharing your ideas, and also for Richard. And thanks, of course, to the volunteers of my English club who make this event possible. Thank you so much. All right. Now it's the time for us to have a group photo. Let's do it. So if possible, whenever possible, please turn your camera on. All right. Okay, I'll be waiting until most of us turn the camera on so we can have a nice picture. Okay. Some of you come from another country. Thank you so much for coming. Derek from Myanmar, thank you so much for joining us today. Okay. Okay, so let's hold your smile for a few seconds, okay? Right, 3, 2, 1. Cheese. All right, once more. 3, 2, 1. Okay. Right, so thank you very, very much. Stay tuned in the WhatsApp group. I'm going to post the link to the YouTube of the video for this session, and also the useful link that the speakers and also the participants mentioned around the topic of motivation today. Okay, so have a great week tomorrow, starting tomorrow, and see you again in the other events of my English club. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care. My pleasure. Malal Taufik, thank you so much.
Leviana, can you write again the address of the Instagram? Would you like to write again? I'm sorry.
Okay, I will do that. I'll do it for you. Here we go.
Thank you.
There. Yeah, I'll give you some time to follow us on Instagram. Okay.
Yeah, thank you. I've got it.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Okay. So until we meet again, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Have
Thank
a
you.
great week.
Thank you. See you next time.
Yes, see you next time. Right. Thanks for coming, Miss May.
Thank you.
See you again.
See you, Miss.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Wow.
I'll leave the meeting, man.
Oh yes, please,
Okay.
Taoufik.
So
Thank
can
you
I
so
get
much.
the email of Rich? Do you have an email of Rich? Rich is here.
I think he's here. Richard, there. Wait. I think he's
I think
here.
he's not here.
He's here. But he might be
Hello.
away. Yeah, he might be away for a while. Thank you so much, Taoufik and Malal. Would you
Okay.
like to give me any feedback? Do you have any feedback about this event so far?
I think it's good, right? But I would like to next time we have more teachers and more
Hopefully.
topics. Yeah.
Hopefully, yeah.
Can I get your email, Rich? If you don't mind.
Email? Yeah, no problem. 1 second. I'll just type it into the chat, okay? Are we still recording, by the way?
Oh,
Yes.
why do I always forget about this, Rich?